Evening, we'd like to call this meeting to order. It's in Olivet City Council meeting for October 25th, 2022. It's 7 o'clock and we are in the city chambers at the Olivet City Hall, City Center at 1140 Yeoman Road in Olivet. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Knox,
Here.
Councilmember Waldman.
Here.
Chairman Carl,
Here.
Mayor.
Here. Next item.
Next item is communications. Mayor, we have two swearing in tonight for a deputy chief and a new sergeant. And then we have combinations for the fire department.
Thank you. This evening, it is my pleasure to swear in Dave Barry as the new major. And we are so excited for him. Dave has been with the Olivet Police Department for 28 years and has been a sergeant for 14 years. And for the past 3 years, he has been commander of the Bureau of Professional Standards. Dave wears many hats within the department. He was the CALIA accreditation manager, evidence custodian, manages the drug take back program, and is also a TASER instructor. Dave holds a Bachelor of Science degree in emergency management from Drury University, as well as an associate in applied science degree in criminal justice, law enforcement from St. Louis Community College. When Dave first started patrolling the streets in Olivet 28 years ago, he quickly learned that Olivet was a special community, not only for its amazing citizens and business owners, but for the career opportunities that the city offers its employees. Dave has been married to his wife, Jennifer, for 17 years, and she is here tonight to pin on Dave's major badge. So we are thrilled that Dave is going to be joining us in this capacity. And at this time, I'm going to call him up. I, David Barry, do solemnly swear
I, David Barry, do solemnly swear
that I possess all the qualifications
that I possess all the qualifications
as Deputy Chief for the city of Olivet,
As
St.
deputy-
Louis, Missouri.
as Deputy
Yeah.
Chief for the City of Olivet, St. Louis, Missouri.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States,
That I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the state of Missouri,
the State of Missouri,
and the charter ordinances of the city of Olivet.
and the Charter of Ordinances of the City of Olivet.
And that I will faithfully discharge
That I will faithfully discharge
the duties of this office
the duties of this office
by abiding by the law enforcement code of ethics.
by abiding by the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics.
I recognize the badge of my office
I recognize the badge of my office
as a symbol of public faith,
as a symbol of public faith,
and I accept it
and I accept it
as a public trust to be held and honored.
as a public trust to be held and honored.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
No. There are a lot of officers in the back. Don't be bashful. The mayor called you out before I did.
Thank you.
Next up is Sergeant Jake Hoffmeister. Jake Hoffmeister has been with the City of Olivet Police Department for 7.5 years. He is the department's recruitment officer, a taser and de-escalation instructor, and a field training instructor. Sergeant Hoffmeister truly enjoys working in the community of Olivet and is excited to see what the future holds for the city and the police department. When not at work, Sergeant Hoffmeister's greatest joy is spending time with his family, especially his wife Kayla, his 4-year-old son Lincoln, and his 2-year-old daughter Kate. He also enjoys the outdoors, and he is passionate about hunting, fishing since an early age. Sergeant Hoffmeister sends his deepest thanks to his family, friends, and the community of Olivet and fellow members of the Olivet Police Department for all the support and love shown to him since putting the badge on in 2015. Please come forward. I, Jacob Hoffmeister, do solemnly swear
I, Jacob Hoffmeister, do solemnly swear
that I possess all the qualifications
that I possess all the qualifications
to serve as a police sergeant
to serve as a police sergeant
for the city of Olivet,
for the city of Olivet,
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri,
That I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Missouri
and the state of Missouri,
and the charter and ordinances
and the charter and ordinances
of the city of Olivet.
of the city of Olivet,
And that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of this office
the duties of this office
by abiding by the law enforcement code of ethics.
by abiding by the law enforcement code of ethics.
I recognize the badge of my office
I recognize the badge of my office
as a symbol of public faith,
as a symbol of public faith,
and I accept it as a public trust to be held and honored.
and I accept it as a public trust to be held and honored.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Oh, Lyle, Lincoln, special honor.
Just cut your head in.
What are we doing? We don't have uniform on.
Karaoke?
so-
Jake goes right here. Jake goes right here.
Oh, 'cause it's his picture.
Oh, that's right. This is about Jake, not us. Okay. Congratulations. brother.
At this time, I'd also like to call up our fire chief, Steve. Friedman.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, Ms. Sondag. On July 26th, B Crew was on duty and received a call to assist University City with several water rescues. Several water rescues turned into over 60 people rescued from the waters. One of which was a child that was stuck in the basement, and the crew pulled in the tools and cut a hole in the floor and rescued the child. The child had about 3 inches of airspace left at that time. University City Chief Billy Henson sent over a letter of recognition to each one of the crew members, and I would like to call them up and recognize them at this time. I'll read just one letter. William Pendergrass, in recognition of your quick actions on July 26, 2022, which protected the lives of multiple University City residents and directly saved the life of a child during a major flooding event in the city of University City. You are awarded the Fire Rescue Life-Saving Commendation Bar. So I'd like to call William up. They have a red pin that they get to wear on their dress uniform. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you all
you.
for your service. Congratulations for your awards and your heroic activity. You are to be honored. Thank you.
Item, please.
Item number 3 is city manager's report.
But I gotta say goodnight to my good friend. Good night, Lincoln.
Next, he's wearing a
Next
Cornette
item.
necklace.
City manager's report.
Good evening. It's going to be kind of a quick report tonight, having known we were going to have these other things earlier. Just an update to the council and residents of, we will be pursuing.
Barb, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Um,
Do you intend to put that on our screen or are we looking this way? I don't know if they're sharing or not.
Okay.
Thank you.
There are 2 intersections that help alleviate the traffic up in the northeast quadrant. In particular, the traffic from the 2 industrial parks, North Price and Dealman Industrial. Those are Dealman Industrial Road and Price Road. For a number of years, we've been looking to figure out how we can make improvements on these streets to basically to keep traffic flowing. We have been in communications with the MoDOT regional engineer, and we were given a good green light to actually combine these 2 projects into one project for 2 different grants. One is an air quality grant, and the other is a MoDOT cost share grant. The idea with both intersections is the same. It's to add kind of an additional lane so that we can kind of continue to move people who are making right turns onto Olive as they're traveling south to improve the flow of the traffic. This has been a great concern for some of the employers up in the industrial park. It's been a concern for the residents. in the northeast quadrant as far as, and it's part of staff's continuing to attempt to increase access into and out of that area, both in a north, south, east, west manner. And so that was very good news. We anticipate a public meeting in early December. Bruce McGregor with the Public Works Department has been assisting utility relocations at Olive Crossing. This has been a very complex and project that has required quite a bit of coordination with the various utilities. When we think of utilities, we think of Ameren and Spire, and then we'll think of, Charter and AT&T. There are a lot of other utilities, smaller companies that have fiber that go underground. And the picture on the left is one of the linesmen as they're moving some of the utilities over to from the poles that are closer to Olive Boulevard, moving them to the poles that are going to be further away, and that's to make room. Two purposes for that. One, it will give more space for an additional lane, and also it will give an actual good size sidewalk that will be utilized as the Centennial Greenway at that area. The picture on the right bottom, that's an indication. All of those concrete vaults contain some type of underground utility. And that area is going to be kind of the right turn lane onto Olive. And so again, you're looking at either moving those or those utilities and coordinating the move of those utilities, or you are looking at devising some type of lid that vehicles can travel over. Some of the vaults, like the Ameren's, is very large. In fact, you walk in it and you can walk into under Olive to the middle of the street. So this is not a small project, and I want to just recognize Bruce McGregor for the work he's been doing to really help facilitate this project. Speaking of Bruce, it's his favorite time of the year. It's curbside leaf collection schedule is out, and we'll be starting that next week. He wanted me to give his home phone number out so that people could call him directly, but I said, no, they can just call the office. If you do have any issues, again, look at the website. It's on the front page. There's a lot of information about leaf collection, when to put your leaves out, what to do if your leaves aren't collected. Talks about delays in the leaf collection. Rainy days like this serve two purposes. They serve to knock all the leaves down, and they serve to delay leaf collection. So it's kind of a double whammy on those. And every year we contract the service with a private company who does leaf collection, curbside leaf collection with a number of other municipalities. And so and everybody wants those same weeks. Everybody wants the weeks right after the leaves fall. And it's really, we're trying to figure out when to have the leaf collection. We're not doing that in October. We're not doing that in September. We're doing that at the beginning of the year. So have patience and let us know if there are any issues. A couple of personnel changes. Our police records clerk, Sarah Fujiyawa, has resigned effective on October 21st. She decided she was just going to have that baby and stay home with it. So I have not heard if she's had her baby yet. But she was supposed to, I think this week was her time. So she worked right up until the end. We wish her luck. She was excellent at her job. Merlin Brown was promoted to lead equipment operator, filling the vacancy created by Leonard Perry's retirement. And Cody Stewart was hired as a park equipment operator. Cody was a seasonal employee in 2021, and when he heard there was an opening, he applied. That's actually how we hope our seasonal employees work, that they can fill some of those permanent slots. And just another reminder that the recreation staff and park and rec administration will be moving to City Hall on this Thursday. They call the regular numbers. They may not be able to answer your calls right away, but they will go to voicemail and they'll be able to get back with you. programming in the community rooms remains the same. Turkey Trot, again, we've been having a good show. We're over 500 folks as of this morning, probably more now. And that's right on a little bit higher than where we were last year. Our goal is to have between 1,800 and 2,000 participants. And so we're on our way. You never know. The majority of registration happens within the last 2 weeks, right before the race, when people decide what they're doing for Thanksgiving, I think. So that's always, and again, 100% of the proceeds of this event go to the Harvey Kornblum Food Pantry. Upcoming events, the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee is meeting on the 26th and the 27th of October at the times there. They will be going pretty much immediately into a closed session to interview firms for to work as a consultant for the comprehensive plan. The city council has a work session November 1st at 7 p.m. The Planning and Community Design Commission is November 3rd at 7 p.m. You get your next regular city council meeting November 8th. Coffee with the Mayor is November 9th. The mayor's guest will be Keisha Lee, who is the president of the Ladue School Board, and she is also a commissioner on our Park and Recs Commission. Veterans Day, November 11th, our offices are closed. Planning and Community Development is November 17th. The city council is scheduled to have a meeting November 22nd. You folks will let me know. That's Thanksgiving week, so you can let me know whether you'll be having that or not. And with that, that is all I have. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions from any of the council members? We'll start at this end. Nikki or Libby? Okay, thank you very much. Next item, please.
Next item is city council reports.
Okay, we'll start at the far end to my right.
Good evening. I attended the first comprehensive plan where we all got together and met. And like Ms. Sondak said, we're beginning to interview consultants this week.
Excellent. Thank
That's all
you.
I have.
Thank you. Chairman Pro Tem.
Yes, yesterday I attended the Economic Development Commission meeting. The major topic was to review the census data as was reviewed at the city council work session. So from that perspective, I have no new info to bring forward. Unfortunately, due to I forget what it was now, but our guest speaker was not could not attend, and so there was no presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Earl? Mr. Clark?
I have nothing to report at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Waldman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I'll start with the Municipal League before I go into Planning and Community Design Commission, if you don't mind.
That'd be great.
I appreciate that so much. On October 20th, 2022, I attended the Municipal Board Executive Board meeting. I shared something with you all electronically with regards to the glitch that is occurring with Brentwood. And a code miscalculation. I shared with you that I asked the city manager our status on that. I shared with you that she indicated, our finance director indicates it doesn't appear as if we've been impacted by that glitch. The meeting that was scheduled for Monday that I shared with you all has been postponed until next Monday. November, tomorrow, what are we at, Tuesday? This Thursday is the next municipal league meeting for all municipalities. It will be held at the Sunset Hills Community Center, again, October 27th. The next municipal meeting for everyone will be November 30th. It will be an affiliate open house. That's really a fun event. You meet a lot of vendors, and it will be at Maryland Heights. Reminding us that we will be hosting the February Municipal League meeting. And I was promised it will be on our November discussion for prepping for that. So if we could, that'd be great. What has been going on in some conversations within the commission, the board and its afternoon meetings is the concerns with regards to um, shared legal enforcement. They need a consistent chase and pursue policy. And they want to attempt to see about creating a task force. They would like to deal with a task force implementation, something like what St. Charles County has had. They will be meeting with Judge Ott and Judge Dodson and Mayor Dermott and Wesley Bell to begin kind of talking about this possibility of creating this task force to try to be able to deal with, you know, shared responsibility on what's going on with crime and activity. So that is something that is in conversations. The discussion with regard to flock camera. Flock camera is something that police departments are interested in. I remember we had a presentation. I don't remember the what's of it, but that is a conversation that's being had as well. Questions like why not hold the parents accountable for what's going on with their children? So a task force was created and approved by the Municipal League Board to look into the task force. So task force. It was identified that the invasive species program, you know, had money that the Municipal League would like to contribute. It came from the Conservation Department, and they're saying cities didn't ask for that funding. And I'm sure our city's on top of things. But he said there was still money. So if y'all want to look into that. 6 to 8% increase in tax revenue is hopefully what most cities are beginning to see, but we are again dealing with higher costs for things. And that is all I have for my municipal league report with regard to the Planning Community Design Commission meeting that was held this past Thursday. Mr. Trejo always does a beautiful job of providing summary. So 67 Stony Side Lane was approved. It was a new home. It dealt with some water runoff issues and problems. There was a consultant that brought some things to the table. All parties were happy and agreed, and thus it passed. The text amendment, as we know tonight, the medical marijuana was recommended approval to bring it to the council. There were some changes. We have final say whether we want any changes. The discussion of the Hilltop West Development Project, the developer discussed difficulty in securing attached home concepts presented to the commission in April. He is seeking consideration to construct a detached single-family homes in lieu. The zoning regulations under the current zoning design SR single-family residential restricts construction of new homes on lots that are less than 50 feet. These lots are currently 40 feet wide, and the discussion of how can we still have a development down there with this small problem of just a few lots down in that area. So the Planning Community Design Commission is in conversations with regard to that matter. I think the city always attempts to work well with anyone that wants to come and invest in our community. And with that, Madam Mayor, that is my report for tonight. I thank you and everyone for your patience and due diligence.
Thank you. I attended two meetings since this past couple weeks. The first meeting was that last week on Wednesday morning at Ladue High School. There was the inaugural Legislative Advisory Board meeting. They invited a lot of the mayors and local government officials from St. Louis and from that also have students in Ladue schools. I found it fascinating. I didn't realize that there's like 10 municipalities that have students that go to Ladue schools. I've always thought it was like 4 or 5. And I didn't realize how many have like just a corner of their municipality that seeps into Ladue schools. But what the Legislative Advisory Board is going to do, it is a group that is starting off, I believe they were meeting this week, and it's a parent-led based group from the school board. And they're going to look at issues in the state of Missouri that have to do with that they want the students, whether it's at the high school or they're going to want parents in the Olivet and in the different communities to know about that will affect the school. prior to elections and what should we be out there, pounding the pavement for. So that group is starting off today and I would say about 50% of the people on the committee are Olivet residents, which I thought was great. So that was very worthwhile. The other thing is I attended the Parks meeting and thank you, Barb. You just saved us a few minutes because now I don't have to say all of the promotions that you'd said and a couple of how great the clean out was and the personnel updates and some of the special events. But I do want to focus on a couple of things. One is the soccer teams. We're up to, I know last week we were at like 650. Still 50. Okay, we're at 650 participants for soccer. And for the first time, we will be for basketball. We're going to be using, I'm gonna say it right, Reed School, Old Bonham School, not Spady, Conway, and one other, Hillcrest, which is off of Worcester. And this is the first time we'll be using their gyms during the winter months for basketball, which is very exciting. And last Saturday night, the Harvest Fest, if any of you were able to be there, they said it was gonna be magical. It was magical. The light bulb went on when I was introducing the magician, that it was magical. But I told Don tonight, like, I didn't even see him all night. He was busy running the hay rides. I mean, everyone was engaged in something. And the couple times that we tried to do head counts, at one point it was 400 and then it was 450 and then, so somewhere between 450 and 500 people. People just kept coming out and everyone that I spoke to that night was just so blown away by the new pavilion and some of the, and people were just so excited to talk about what's happening at the park. So it was just really a wonderful night and the weather cooperated. And then the relocation, I was going to touch base on too, but Barbara already shared that. And I know it's hard when you're moving offices, and I want to give a shout out to Bev and Don and the staff up at everyone. It's not just the staff here and at Public Works, but your staff, it's like moving and packing and going. It's different than you just moving your house. Moving a business is a big, big deal. So thank you. And I hope that people take the time to drive by and look at our different parks, even though they're not all open. Pieces of parks are available for you to just be exploring and starting to see. And it's a very exciting time for us. So that is my report for tonight, and I'll move that on to the next item, please.
Next
Oh,
item
wait,
is,
is there a question?
Mhm. Do we pay for these gymnasiums that we're using with the school systems? Okay.
Thank you.
next item is the monthly finance report, September 2022.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have our 3-month or July, August, and September financial report in front of us, and we'll see that revenues are up 70,000 from where we thought our expectations would be at this point. The expenditures are below by 263,000 for a net favorable variance of 330, almost $334,000. Our sales tax holding up well, utility taxes looking poor. These are kind of the trends that we'll probably be talking about. Maybe for the year, we'll see if something changes on that utility tax side, and hopefully everything on the sales tax side holds up. The reasons for those bigger variances on the expenditure side is mostly personnel related. If you go down into the detail of things and look at that salary line, anywhere that we had positions budgeted, new positions, we have not hired those as quickly as we had thought. And there's also some vacancies there. Before we move past there, we do have the monthly use tax chart there. And that we can see, again, our current year is that bright orange where it just makes an inverted V there. You can see that it's obviously doing well compared to any other year in this chart, which is 7 years. And the year before in 21 was also, the second best year we'd had. So this is what's propping up the positive variance in that sales tax category. The sales tax that we commonly speak of, the 1% is budgeted to kind of talk to some of your numbers that you talked to, Councilmember Waldman, where have budgeted an increase in our sales tax to 1%. that we get, we retain is budgeted at an 11% increase. So it's right on par if we look on the detail there. So that's goes right along with what you had said and what we're seeing countywide. So with that, the use tax has been a big story for that sales tax category. So I wanted to share that chart, bring it back around here. Our reserve policy, well in compliance on the next page there. And then we talk about a little bit of the revenues that I've discussed again already. The final chart we see on the next page that I'll talk about tonight is the motor fuel sales tax. And this was a little bit of an interesting one in that, we hear about the gas tax increase, where does it go and what does it look like? Well, for us, here's kind of what it looks like. If we, follow that big, I guess, cluster right there in our July, August, September, October, we were running what, about 18,000, 19,000 a month. And now we're, at 21,000. So that's what it translates into us. It's, we don't see those kinds of things in our, those kind of baseline revenues that we see there in the gas tax. You can see there until 2022, which was is the orange. This was a pretty boring chart, and now we see the increase. So there's the impact for us at the city of Olivet. That would conclude my report tonight. I'm more than happy to answer any questions or look deeper into anything if it so pleases.
Are there any questions? Nice and thorough as always. Oh, nice and thorough as always. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
The next item is the quarterly investment report for September 2022.
All right, good evening again. We have our quarterly reports for it's the third quarter of the year, but our first quarter. While we're here, we can look at that weighted average yield to maturity at 1.69% versus 4.3% at the 1-year T-bill rate. This is I present this because it's required through the investment policy. And more than anything, this is what you'd expect in a raising rate environment. Let's go to the next page. You can see what brings that down. Right below those empty ladders, the rungs or the months that we don't have any investments since we started this in last December. You can see the one right below that yellow was at 0.3% at last December. That was the best thing we'd seen in years, but now it's nothing. And so that brings down our weighted average monthly yield. The plan here is more than anything to continue this process as yields are favorable compared to our idle rates. Our cash needs are much less than what we have in our idle funds and continue with this investment. The bottom part of this below where it says general fund is it says construction fund, but that's the bond proceeds, the investment of those bond proceeds. And you can see the rates have varied there. We've deployed most of this in August, and it's now kind of just going to begin to start rolling off. It's sorted by the purchase date and not by maturity. So you can see in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have some more coming off, and I expect that to be redeployed in some shorter terms too. So that'll squeeze some yield out of that. Again, that's all I have for my report though.
Darren, a little bit of clarification. You said the maturity date is not really the maturity date.
Is what?
You said the maturity date is not really the maturity date.
That is the maturity date, sorry.
Let me go back to,
It's not sorted by the maturity.
okay, let me go back to Bank of China, New York.
Yes,
That's maturing on the 15th of December, 2022.
yes.
Are you bringing that back to us? What are we going to do with that fund? And you're going to look at something new? What?
Yes, that's so any of these empty rungs, the plan would be to continue to fill those rungs, and anything that matures would be reinvested, for lack of a better term, at those rates. Or sorry, at the current rates at that time. As we keep going down there, the ones in the gray are ones beyond the 1 year. So that look at like rungs in a ladder, you can see it all the way to that gray line, and then those were purchased at there was one there at 18 months, a year and a half, up to 2 years. Kind of I guess the longest we can go on according to our investment policy is 5 years. So we wouldn't be going anything past that. We'll when rates get to 5% is my magic number.
Mhm.
Maybe we'll start talking about maybe going longer than 2 years in
Yeah,
that. Yep.
yeah, okay. And the construction fund,
Mhm.
FHLB, that will be coming back as well. Yes?
Yep, we have
Okay.
about $2.5 million coming in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Our cash needs for that. I expect all that to be redeployed out to we'll see where our rates where that yield curve kind of sits. Actually, I think I have it on here, don't I? The last one, it's been a long week and I did this last week. Go one more page, I think. One more after that. I take it back. It's at the very end. And the yield curve, which is,
Right,
where
right
we
now,
kind of
yeah.
look at that. Here's
Yeah.
where we were. 10/21, 10/22 of 21. So that's last year. You can see how it makes that nice little upward, I guess, upward curve.
Mhm.
And then if we go to the next page, you'll see the one, where are we looking at today?
Yeah.
Ultra flat. How far out do you want to go before, then kind of get that? So that's why we're reaching out, and you see the kind of plateaus off at 12 years. That's why 12 months. We're going on the 12 months up to the 24. When I hit that last line there, 5 years, hits that 5%, maybe I think I would. we'll talk
Jared, I
about
like
it.
that chart. You haven't had that before. I like that chart. Thank you. And thank you for your inquiry. And thank you for your, no.
Thank you, Mr. Mann.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item number 7 is hearing from citizens.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak at this time? If you're here to speak about the first reading tonight about the special use permit, I will be taking comments at that time as well. Okay, next item, please.
Next item is item number 8, bill number 2988, an ordinance amending section 400.950, permitted uses of Article 10, PA Public Activity District, being part of chapter 400 zoning regulations of Title 4 land use of the Olivet Municipal Code to include child daycare services. First reading.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight, I bring forward to you Bill 2988. This is the proposed text amendment that was drafted by the Planning and Community Design Commission. Basically, under our PA district, which allows parks, schools, places of worship, and public buildings. Also permits child daycare facilities, but as special permit uses. What this amendment would do is permit, in conjunction with a school, place of worship, or a public building, the ability to place a child daycare facility by right. That would authorize that the review for any construction go through the Planning and Community Design Commission, but would not necessitate a review and approval by the City Council. The reason we are recommending the amendment as submitted is that various facilities already in our community, Emmanuel Lutheran, our former community center, have operated daycare facilities. This will only apply to child daycare facilities. And also, if it is a standalone facility, it would be still subject to a special permit use. Mayor, I'd be glad to answer any specific questions. If not, I'll have a more broader public presentation at our next meeting.
Are there any questions? Chairman Pro Tem, please.
Mr. Trejo, so if I understand this correctly, you're saying that if it's an activity that already occurs in public activity areas like a church or us as a community center or schools, and they want to put in a daycare, even if it's in a separate building, then they will be able to do so simply by going through the Planning and Zoning Commission.
That is correct.
Okay, if anybody, I don't know, would we allow a freestanding utility to be even by an independent business that was just a child daycare even enter a public activity district? I mean, could they?
They could through a special permit process. So if there was a undeveloped piece of property that was zoned PA public activity, they could petition to operate, to construct a single structure or standalone structure on that site. And that would require both the Plan Commission review and then also City Council a review.
Okay.
And one of the reasons for the the special permit use being applied to daycare facilities is that the way the code looks at it is that it's looking at the use universally, whether it's in the COR district, the MU district, the Gateway district, or the PA district. The PA district has a minimum area requirement. Typically, I believe it's no less than 2 acres. So the availability of land is already required under the PA district. When you're in the COR district and you can have as close as 20,000 square feet, you know, there should be a trigger for additional review because that is a pretty compact property to have this type of use. Not that, you know, the building can't handle the occupants. It's usually you need to be concerned about the traffic movements and things of that nature and how that impacts the surroundings. When you have more than 2 acres, those impacts are kind of minimized. They're still there and we still have to evaluate them, but not at the level that you would in the COR district or in the MU district or the city center district.
Okay, so from that, I then take it that really what we're talking about here is that anything built in a COR that would be child daycare, regardless of who owns it, including a church or synagogue, if they chose an off-site parcel somewhere in our core district, even though they're a church, that would still have to get a special use permit.
That's correct. If it's not zone PA, yes.
Okay, so all right, I see where we're going. Okay, thank you.
What was the situation with the previous childcare that was on the Olive Corridor? That before Greg Yoward purchased that land?
That was under a special permit.
It was.
Yes,
Okay.
because that property was owned prior to the
'Cause that
rezoning.
was a private.
That was a conditional
A
use.
private investment of an early childhood center.
Mhm.
Is there any way that we can update the language? The term daycare is not really used anymore. Universally, it's really been phased out. It's either referred to as a child care facility or early childhood care facility. There's
I-
education going on in these facilities. It's not just.
The one thing I would point out, I don't see any problem with that wording. What we do in our code, or we've been trying to do within our code, is tie the name of the use with what the federal Census Bureau
Okay.
identifies uses as, and right now, under this code, which we've applied to our COR district and commercial or city center and MU district.
And they're
it-
still using that term.
Correct, but we can,
That's fine.
we can
There's a
provide
lot of
clarification.
word, a lot of, the word is being taken out of a lot of places. So maybe next time around or at some point we'll amend it when, the codes change.
or just having the reference to that number. We can,
Okay.
I'll be glad to take a look at that.
Okay,
with the city
great.
attorney.
Are there any questions from, Councilman Waldman or? Okay. Passion. Okay, next item, please.
Next item is bill number 2989, an ordinance amending the Olivet Municipal Code by enacting a new chapter 450, regulating medical marijuana facilities. First reading.
Good evening, Mayor, member, City Council. Again, my name is Carlos Trejo. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development for the City of Olivet. And tonight before you, I bring Bill 2989, which again would amend the municipal code to add a new chapter in our land use regulations entitled Chapter 450, Medical Marijuana Facilities. This new chapter is in response to the directive of the council on June 28th. The council requested that the commission prepare a draft regulations for council review that would take a look at distance, odor controls, outdoor operations, waste disposals, hours of operation, and notifications in that process. The commission began its review process roughly a month later, beginning on July 21st, where we had the city attorney in attendance and we had a discussion, reviewed the council's discussions in there and that involved the directive to make these amendments. And the commission then authorizes city attorney Paul Martin to draft a ordinance to begin the process of discussion. That ordinance was drafted, and over the past couple of months, the commission has gone through and has prepared this chapter that's before you tonight, a chapter identifies definitions, the regulations. Within those regulations, it talks about the various distances, the activities on the site, security, odor, hours of operation, and then there's a section for enforcement. This is before you tonight for a first reading. We'll have a public hearing at our next scheduled meeting. And I'll provide a more thorough presentation on the contents of the ordinance. Be glad to answer any specific questions.
I'm going to begin with questions from the cons, and then I'll take some public comment as well. Mr. Clark, do you have any questions? Comments? Okay. Councilmember Waldman.
Thank you,
please.
Madam Mayor. We all know that I'm the liaison of the Planning Community Design Commission, and I sit in there and I hear a lot of people's inputs and thoughts. First thing I want to say is I'm very happy that the city and CAO came together and had conversations. You all did a lot of research. Saved me from having to do the research, but I did the reading. There are things that I still have that are my issues, but I want to hear what you have to say. As I said to the attorney, this is the most difficult issue in my 22 and a half years that has ever come up. Marijuana is on the ballot. It's gonna win. So as I went to the Harvest Fest and walked through the not so scary path, that I could say, we can make it a little scarier, but if it's for autism and sensory, I get it. You know, some people ask me questions and I pose questions to the city as if they were really my questions. Because people have expressed concerns. One of them was with regard to enforcement, design, dispensary, security mechanisms, how marijuana would fit in our current public smoking rules and regulations. And I got some of the answers that at this point in time that I really kind of knew some of those answers, but I really wanted to show the people that communicated with me. So I went ahead and I took those questions to the city. It gets revised in our no smoking policy once pot becomes legal to smoke. Nothing. State statute does not allow smoking of marijuana in public spaces. The proposed petition language to legalize marijuana does not allow smoking in public spaces either. So for those that thought that maybe we were going to be like New York City, where I'm hearing it's everywhere and you just smell it in the air, and I don't know what their regulations are, but the regulations of Missouri still says you can't smoke it in the public. So according to this, violation of smoking in the public is $200. Can a business own a hookah bar? Well, the answer I was given, well, that's for smoking. Nah, there's hookah bars for pot. And that could be the next thing that business wants to get involved in. Right out of hookah bar are flavored tobacco, not marijuana. Hookah bars could be allowed as private clubs or permanently designated smoking rooms. At this point in time, hookah bars are not for smoking marijuana. There's nothing in state statute that allows for an establishment to set up a place for people to come in and smoke marijuana. Maybe not yet. Enforcement questions because of smash and grab, concerns of robberies when it gets dark. State statute has security requirements, and that was added with our regulations, some additional security requirements. And I think maybe council might even be asking more about the security and what they define as security. I know that I went to Illinois. I have to do my due diligence. And I had my spouse take me to Illinois to learn what does a dispensary look like in Illinois? Because I have no idea what a dispensary looks like in Missouri. And it's you walk into this big room. There's a guy at another big door. You only let so many people through. You go into another room. That's where the retail is. I couldn't smell a thing. You go, you stand, people waited, went to a cashier gave them a bag that was sealed. I could smell no aroma when I went to a dispensary. I could smell aroma when I went to a Harvest. I asked how many buildings in Olivet are vacant and large enough to be Harvest. Answer is, I don't know. And I'm not sure staff would have an idea. I don't know why staff wouldn't, but okay. Enforcement and due process for violations of the special use permit. Requirement established by the special use permit are not an ordinance and have a different enforcement process than ordinance violations. An establishment with a special use permit could have property violations that go through the courts, which would be separate from violating the requirements of a special use permit. We do have a section 3 of the recently approved SUP for gas stations at Old Bottom and Olive Street Road. And in there, they do have language that is stronger when it comes to the special use permit. And when this language is provided back to me, because of what we did recently, it gave me some comfort that there is a bit of that enforcement teeth that I'm looking for. That's if we can control, how do we control the design of a retail dispensary? Do we, the council, really get to be a part of that process? Because I don't always agree with the conclusions of what my Planning Community Design Commission come up with, but I have to respect that. So what is our role to be able to say, if they don't want, like what I want to call a 2-chamber process, or are they allowed to have glass? Because lately these shops are being smashed into by vehicles, just like the jewelry stores were. So those are concerns. And I think we need to make sure we have the best security and safety because we're going to have to let this business in our community. So at the end of the day, the document that we're looking at is a shared document that you guys participated in. And I heard what you are all acceptable with. So at this point, I really still want to hear more from you and my peers as we proceed forward with what will be the final document. Remember, they've made recommendations to us. We get to make the final decisions. And potentially, if anyone sees a reason for something to be modified, we have that final say too. But I still want to hear what you have to say. So those were the things that were my concerns that I heard that I wanted to put on the public record tonight. I did ask Mr. Martin a question. Mr. Martin, I told you earlier, I'm going to ask you this question tonight. Why would we be different than Rock Hill? Why would we be different than Rock Hill? Should we get a harvest facility in our community?
Yeah, the difference between the ordinances is striking. The Rock Hill ordinance treats cultivation facilities as a permitted use. There isn't any oversight over the ventilation or filtration systems that are required in our ordinance. And those systems can be reviewed whenever a cultivation facility might apply for a location in the city. And the PCDC and staff will take a hard look at whether those systems are going to be sufficient to abate any odor issue. Rock Hill doesn't have that. So that's the primary distinction. And I hope that answers your question.
Well, it was somebody else's. So, you know, I believe in public record when it's time. So I appreciate the answer to that question. Madam Mayor, that's all I have with regards to this topic at this time. I appreciate your recognition.
Are there any other comments with the council? Okay. Councilmember Knox?
Yes, thank you. The question I have, and I appreciate all the hard work the staff has done on this, preparing this for us. I noticed that the state statute says that with the cultivation can't be within 1,000 feet of the school's house of worship, and further things. And then in this that we were trying to pass, you came up with 750 feet of any residential property. Is that correct, Mr. Trejo?
That's correct.
And state statute, there isn't anything regarding residential.
That's correct.
That's correct. And the only question that I have, as far as the distance is, how did we land on 750 feet?
We'll provide that during the public hearing. We'll take a closer look, but we took a look at various distances from residential properties into the areas that these uses would be permitted, and primarily in the light industrial district. And there, so we took a look at a 500-foot distance, a 750-foot distance, which is consistent with what we apply for adult entertainment under the LID district, and then a 1,000 foot distance. In that, it was a recommendation from myself and through staff that, I think under the 750, I recall, I think it's 4 properties that would be eligible for that use. Of those 4, 1 is unimproved. It's just south, it's on Walters Way, nestled between Arch Framing and Virginia Tile. The other 3 are in the Bauer Industrial Park, pretty close to Ashby. One's already owned by St. Louis County. It operates as the animal control facility and vector control. The other one is the other 2 are owner occupied facilities. Gold Biomedical, which is it's a business that does very good for us. He also owns the building and operates there along with additional tenants. And then Fashion Fabrics, which is another very good business for us that operates their primary retail operations out of that facility. They also own the building in there. So again, as we looked at it, the goal that we understood from the council was not to prohibit, it was to regulate, and that the 750, in addition to the odor controls that were being provided within the ordinance, would be sufficient to address what the council's directive was.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And then I just have one last question. It's regards to the security. I saw where the chief of police will review security measures on the dispensaries and businesses of this. I have a lot of concerns with some of the security issues, only for what I see in the media now, with cars driving through the front of either marijuana businesses or gun businesses. Is there any regulations we can put into security measures for these, or would we have to do that for every business?
Sure. So it's a very good question. So what the original draft version had, I think there were about 4 or 5 items addressing security. Through the commission, it was a recommendation to add the overview of the police chief in that process. The reason we did that, and I think it also references the police chief has and her assistants has good knowledge in terms of what are the current best practices. And the goal here is not to limit or minimize her authority in that review, but to ensure that she's got the opportunity to put in her, what she sees as best practices, or what our current practices, whether it's, next year, 5 years, 10 years down the line in place. So we felt that that language gave her that flexibility to intervene and be part of that review. On the fire side, and also in the building code side, that's evolving. And, a lot of it deals with the more, the building safety, the material use and all that. And I think that has come a long way from its initial application. And that's regarding on building regulations and fire operations to ensure that the safety processes are put in place. So that's why that distinction was there. That's why the police chief is called out. And again, that's to ensure that there's that flexibility and that we, that this thing is kept up with time. I was afraid that if we put too many regulations and they get outdated, we're coming back, or if things happen that are new, or people are looking at different ways or mechanisms to address those safety issues, that we don't have to come back and redo the ordinance. So I hope that reflects that we're trying to ensure she had that flexibility in that
Okay,
process.
that I understand that, and I appreciate that, being part of, the ordinance, but also, I would have been, I would have felt better if it was 1,000 feet from residential, but I understand after you explained it. So I'm good with that. Thank you.
Ms. Sondag? Oh, I'm sorry. She raised her hand before you. Okay. Chairman Pro Tem.
Well, no, I didn't have the question. So,
Okay.
but now I've lost my train of thought. So go on.
No.
I mean,
Ms. Sondag?
the more pressure you put on me, the longer.
I've-
No, I'm good.
I have nothing.
Mr. Martin?
Mayor, I'd just like to bring to the council's attention a very minor item I discussed with Ms. Trejo today. If you go to page 5 of the ordinance, subparagraph or paragraph F, I think we have what amounts to a Scrivener's error here. The first part of the paragraph reads, all structures used for cultivation, manufacturing, and dispensing activities shall be equipped with odor control, filtration, et cetera, et cetera. It does not include testing facilities in this description. And I think it should have, and that was my fault. So I'd recommend that we include that testing facilities in that paragraph. And because the term medical marijuana facilities is defined as including cultivation, manufacturing, testing, and dispensing facilities, then I think that the ordinance should be changed to read all structures used for medical marijuana facilities, facility activities shall be equipped with, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very simple change. As I say, this is my error, and I do not think we need a formal amendment, but I would recommend that we go ahead and implement that change for the reading 2 weeks from now.
Or just consensus?
I don't think it needs anything at all.
Chairman Pro Tem.
It's just a quick, simple question. As an example of some of the measures that the police chief might implement, for instance, which I've heard is what they're trying to do now with jewelry and such places with glass, for instance, put ballards on the parking lot so you can't drive your car. So that would, to me, would be an example of what the police chief could, if that was in the appropriate set of
Absolutely.
mitigation measures, could require for the property. Correct. Okay, thank you. That's all I want.
And if I could follow, she could require with it without it having to go to PCDC, without PCDC having to approve that, correct?
She's part of the review process, yes.
Okay.
No different than the fire chief and
All right,
the requirements for the vehicle curves and things of that nature.
Okay.
So yes.
all right.
Great. Thank you. At this time, I would welcome comments from the audience. I know that I had one.
We're gonna ask if they make sure we have cards.
Yeah, I asked them to fill out cards before the meeting and just to bring them forward when they come. So we can just start with Kate, who approached me first. No, there.
My name is Kate Hellman. I live at 800 North Price. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved in this process. I know we had a bit of a rocky start, but I think we found a way to ride the tide together. And I'm really grateful for all of the conversations that I've had with city staff, for Carlos and Dawn have been wonderful to work with. Barb, Mr. Martin, everybody along the process very lately has been just wonderful to work with. And it really has felt like a good collaboration. I'm very pleased with the residential buffer. That was something our group was really pushing for, and a 750-foot buffer is excellent and wonderful. And I think it really provides the necessary safeguards for our community, along with the other parts that are in this amendment as well. The only piece of the amendment that I would still like the council to take a look at is the piece that I have presented before you. And that's just the wording on section F. At the last PCDC meeting, there was a bit, yes, this is the paper. Mhm. The one that's labeled odor control recommendation for text amendment. That is coming from me. So at the last PCDC meeting, there was a lot of back and forth about this particular piece. And I greatly appreciated the consideration of the PCDC really owning this part and trying to figure out the best way to make the language less subjective and more binding, I guess is maybe a way to describe it. However, I think that the changes that were made open up a little bit more subjectivity. And so the recommendation I have before you is to just simply change the language and eliminate the pieces that are here in red, so that the central part of that reads that the odors of marijuana cannot be detected outside the structure. This, I think, is more in line with the standards that you see in the municipalities listed in the table here. And I also believe that it makes this particular section of the ordinance less subjective. I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you all.
Thank you. I believe everyone was left a copy at their place earlier this evening. Stephanie Todd, please. And if you can give your card to Carlos.
Hi, Stephanie Todd, 7 Heather Hill Lane. I'd like to reiterate a little with what Kate said. So the one change, again, I would like to make is to change it to say, you know, that instead of saying right now, it says minimal odor outside structure and no odor at property boundary. It should say no odor outside structure, because as it current stands, it's unenforceable. What's minimal? You're gonna say, oh, well, that's minimal. And so, you know, you don't smell anything. And at the boundary, that's gonna be changing constantly with the wind and everything. And so, well, I stand here, well, maybe I smell it. Then I was like, well, I don't smell it now. The wind just blew. So just no odor outside the structure. And this is reasonable because the facility should be sealed and all the air needs to be filtered before it's released out into the atmosphere. So again, I'd like to request that.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Ms. Todd, if the pinkish that was recommended by Kate were to disappear from our language, does that suffice what you are trying to say?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Nina Miller.
I am Nina Schatzkammer Miller, 36 Pricewoods. The ordinance has come a long way, and I think it will offer considerable protection to residents. I want to mention Exhibit A, Section F would be better if it's further amended to say cannot be detected outside the structure. Because as Kate and Stephanie said, if odor escapes the building, it can go anywhere. And all the other nearby municipalities say this. There also needs to be consideration of light and sound in addition to smell. These will affect nearby residents too. Rock Hill added very bright lights months after the initial installation. And by the way, Rock Hill still gives off considerable odor despite resident complaints and promises to fix the problems. Clearly, there needs to be a system in place here that will shut down a plant if there are violations. If the facility can continue to operate, there's no incentive to fix the problem. I noticed inclusion of consumption permission, and I haven't reread the state amendment, but I wonder if somebody who has can determine if the state amendment allows this, because if not, it should be removed. Also, and I'll say this every time I get up, so once more, I will mention that no business has an absolute right to locate in the city of Olivet. There's a difference between that thought and a ban. The city council's first obligation is to the residents.
Thank you. Raphael, oh, I was coming around. Sir, I was coming around. Okay, that's fine. Are you speaking?
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to see all of the lawyers, audience, and leaders work hard about that. I'm Sun New, lived in 8933 Iroquois, even though my language is not clear, but my logic is clear. I'm a scientist, I'm PhD, yes. I want to see when we move the chemical from this room to another building, there's a rule. We must need 2 containers. One container is a jar, liquid or gas inside. We must have another container in case some broken. Want to use this example, want to see first, inside of the container from sigma average anywhere, it does not allow leaking. It sealed very well, still need a second container. Okay, I use that example to see. That's a facility, just like a toxic gas inside. We need a first container to seal that very well. That means we cannot detect that in the outside of the building. Second layer, we use the second of the container. That means our buffer area, 750 feet. I think that's the same logic. So I support Kate and just now say, use the language, we cannot detect that kind of smell just in the edge of that facility, that construction, not other too much, otherwise it's so subjective. I don't know my expression is clear or not. Yeah, such as in our kitchen, our gas, if you see, we can leak a little bit. Your water, we can drop, that's okay. No, you cannot accept that. If it leak a little bit or drop, it's a headache for you. So I think the same for that building. If some of the businessmen, they say, I can do that, and they can see very well, we welcome them to here. If they, want to play the game, that's a bigger risk for our city, all our residents. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Raphael?
Hi, Raphael Tomatson, 809 Newcastle Drive. Mostly, I will have a couple comments, but mostly I want to say thank you. It's been actually really nice kind of working through this process. I know we got off on a rough start, but I really feel that it's been nice coming together as a community and feeling connection to the city council and to the city government. And mostly I want to say thank you. I want to give a special call out to Ms. Waldman, who I think has been very good at working and listening to us. And I really appreciate that. I guess I give one other to Greg Carl, who talked to me very early in the process. And I really appreciate that too. So I want to just say thank you. I don't mean to, I've actually talked to most of you, but I just want to say thank you. In terms of my concerns with, first of all, I think this legislation, even as is pretty good. So I want to acknowledge, like, I think we're in a pretty good place. I think that what you hear in kind of my concerns gets down to the odor. I'm not educated enough at this particular junction to understand the science, but we do have people who know the science. I'm not educated enough to know the law, but we have, and you have lawyers. My main concern is just making sure that there are no odors and just making sure that if something goes wrong, we have a way to kind of make sure that we have the teeth. And I think at this point, I get the sense that you've heard us on that. And now I need you guys to just kind of be the ones who have the resources to kind of take that to the finish line. But I just wanted to say thank you and kind of just share that concern. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to return to city council members and see if anyone has any other comments this evening or questions.
One more person.
No. No.
So I just want to be sure we can.
Okay.
Um,
No, I knew we had it.
The only thing I want to say is I'm really glad to hear your comments tonight. I'm glad that we've come to a situation where we're working together. That's what I had always hoped for. I agree, we had a rocky start and but I think it's come around. So I want to thank everybody who has worked so hard on this, staff and residents. So and the Planning and Zoning Commission themselves. So I just want to send out those thanks right now. We'll take your comments. I will take your comments and think about them, and we'll see where we go. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I can clearly ditto my fellow council member pro tem. I know I've had conversations with people. Passion is passion. Sometimes people confuse passion as anger. Passion is yelling. You're yelling at me. No, I'm not. It's passion. Y'all came here with passion. For 22 years, I've had passion. It did start off a little rough. Kate, you pointed me out and I apologize, but it's passion. And it is amazing to see what happens when you freak this council member out and we then all come together and we make something beautiful. So with that, I'll wait to see what happens next week at the final product. I am taking those pink words into consideration. Thank you.
So for all those years that my wife has been yelling at me, it's passion.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say on this matter. Thank you.
No, I think it's the process is important and I thank everyone for being a part of it. Thank you very much. And Mr. Trejos will
Thank you, Mayor.
be back here in 2 weeks for the second reading. And thank you once again, to everybody. Next item, please.
Next item is the Park Memorial Program.
Beverly Tucker Knight.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Beverly Tucker Knight, Parks and Recreation Director. And what is it not?
Yes. But when everybody, there's no way that our mind is gonna get locked back on that stuff.
Now I can't see. Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, okay, so good evening, Mayor and council members, Beverly Tucker Knight, Parks and Recreation Director. So this evening you have before you a culmination of a process that the Parks and Recreation Commission went through in developing a new and improved park memorial policy. The city's been without a policy for a long time, and we've had a challenge of aging memorials, and we really wanted to honor the process and come up with a better solution. So before you this evening is a proposed policy, and I'm going to take you through a little bit of it. So how did we get here? So the Parks and Recreation Commission was tasked with developing a new policy because we had unsustainable practices. So number one, we had accepted many years ago large donations that weren't fully funded, and the city ended up paying more over long-term maintenance for these memorials, and we'd like to eliminate that practice, so you will not see that contained within this policy. We also had memorials that were created out of fragile materials. For example, we had bricks that were put in the ground or on posts by trees that were hit by mowers that were broken, and then that's not a very nice memorial for someone that's really put something in with care. And then we also had unhoused memorials. So we had memorials where you had a very sturdy memorial, like a brass plaque, put on a very fragile material, like a wooden bench. So the bench clearly is not going to last as long as the brass plaque. Then what do you do with the brass plaque? Because the memorial was funded maybe 20, 30 years ago, and the family's no longer around, and now we have this plaque, and what do we do with it? So how do we honor that? So that is the situation that the Parks and Recreation Commission was working on. So I will take you through their process. So the first thing they did was establish drivers of the process. So the first one was that it would be sustainable in the long term and able for the city to take care of it, but also sustainable in that it would be appropriate for our parks master plan in our looking at biodiversity and not negatively impacting the parks with the items we were putting in it, and financially sustainable as well. And that it would be inclusive so that everything we did, there were varying labels, varying levels of donations so that families could have a thoughtful and special memorial for someone, even if they couldn't afford the higher echelon gifts such as a bench. So those were the two main drivers that the Parks and Recreation Commission worked on with staff. So out of that, 4 categories were developed. The first is a general, unrestricted, any amount category. So if someone wanted to donate to the parks, they can do it at any amount. They can choose to have it go where it's most needed, or they could choose to donate money to be used for a recreation program, for a scholarship or a fee waiver for something, or to just say, put it wherever you need it most. The next category is for flowers. These would be perennial flowers. They would be native flowers, with the exception of the spring bulbs, which aren't natives, but they are a wonderful thing to have in the parks, or even for a monarch way station. So the minimum donation for this is $100, and people would be welcome to do it at any level where they saw fit. The third is for planting a tree. A tree is a very long-term memorial in a park, and it has to be very thoughtful about where it's placed and which species it would be. So these memorials would be a specific list of trees that would be planted in the park. For $250, the staff would identify the tree that's most needed and place it in a park. If someone wanted to actually choose the type of tree and have a slightly larger tree and have it placed in a particular park, then that would have a higher rate of $750. And the final one would be for a bench. So the memorial benches, we've been testing for a couple years, and they grew out of that imbalance of a brass plaque on a wooden bench. So the new benches that we started testing, I believe 3 years ago was the first one we put in. These are 100% teak benches. They are commercial grade bench that's used in resorts and parks. They're sustainably grown and harvested, and then they are crafted in the United States of teak that comes from Southeast Asia. These benches are engraved directly into the wood, so there is no brass plaque to outlive the length of the bench. The benches are untreated, which means there is no annual maintenance because teak ages beautifully. So donors have showed a picture of the bench when it comes new, and then a picture of the bench after it's aged a couple years in its finer, beautiful silvery color. So those are that solution to have something that's a long-term, but when the bench is no longer viable, the bench is removed and we don't have to worry about what to do with it afterwards. Recognition is a very important component of this. There's always an anonymous option. Sometimes people just want to give money, and that's totally fine, and they don't want to be thanked, but oftentimes people really want to be thanked. So all of our donations, no matter the level, would receive a thank you from the city and a tax ID if they would so choose to use that for their tax purposes. At levels 25 and above, someone can have a tribute card mailed to a recipient of their choice. Over $100, there would be a one-time notice in the city newsletter. Thank you to these recent donors. And then at over $25, they would also be included for 1 year on the city's website on a tribute page. And then we have where on the donation page on the website and in the newsletter, we have donation levels that are recognizing our biodiversity in the parks, from bumblebees to monarchs. And then what do we do with the legacy memorials that we already have? So through the annual work in our parks, we removed a lot of memorials that were broken or dangerous. So we removed a lot of benches that were past their usable point. We have collected those brass plaques. They're currently in my office. We've also had some bricks in the ground. There are some still there that we're still trying to get out of the ground. So what our recommendation is that We hold on to these memorial plaques for a year, and that allows us to reach out to the families if we still can and give them the option if they would like to have it back. And we talk about that as being if it's feasible. So if a family is living out of state and it's a very heavy, heavy item, we cannot afford to ship it to them. But if they chose to come pick it up or have someone else designated to pick it up, or if they wanted to pay the shipping, then we would arrange that to happen. And then we will take a picture of that memorial and we'll put it on the website for 1 year so that people can see it there and it would be part of that honoring. And then after the year is expired, if the family does not wish it, or if we're unable to get in touch with the family at that point, we would dispose of the plaque. So the next steps are, if approved, the staff would start working on the tasks required to bring this memorial program to fruition. And what that means is we would finalize the list of native trees. We would identify areas where we can add additional benches. There's a finite number of benches we can put in each park without it becoming cluttered. However, we still have a lot of older benches that can be replaced by the new benches. So I think we're good for several years to come on that. And then making sure that we have the web pages designed, the marketing materials, the appropriate financial information up in our system to accept it. So there's a lot of back end work that has to happen. And we are confident that would be completed and ready to go by February. And at this point, I would really like to thank the Parks and Recreation Commission for all of the work they did on this, and also thank Mayor Maxine Weil, who worked on the working committee with this. I've listed the members. Oh, you cannot see them. My goodness. Let's see if what? Well, I apologize. That is so Kastner, before he left the commission, was on the working group. I was on the working group along with Keisha Lee, Jim Person, and Maxine Weil. And Jim Person is here this evening from the Parks and Recreation Commission, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have about the program. Thank you. Are there any questions? We started this one. Oh,
No.
it's okay.
He made a note, he won't forget.
I'm never gonna live that down.
No, you're not.
Beverly, maybe I heard you wrong, but I don't know. I got these old ears here. A bench is no longer viable. It will go away.
Yes, we have benches that have fallen apart, or they're broken, or they're dangerous,
Okay.
so we take them away.
Okay. I'm gonna go
Yes.
to the teak bench.
Yes,
That's where
the
I'm
teak
going.
bench. Okay.
Okay, you said you had a few out for a couple of years, maybe they're weathering, well, I don't know. When a teak bench goes bad, no longer viable, it'll go away.
Yes, that's correct.
How long does a teak bench last? What, do you know that historical? What is
Yeah,
the life of it?
They, so there is the life that is talked about when we purchase it, and that's roughly 25 to 30 years. We do have some teak benches in Stacy Park that are much older than that. So it all depends on how sheltered they are, what the weather's like, how much snow we get, all of that. But that's one of the reasons people use teak, is because of the longevity of the wood.
And that was my question.
Good mind.
Now that I said that, we're gonna have like 4 bad winters in a row, and they're all gonna fail within 10 years. But, it's a natural product. It's not plastic, so it will eventually biodegrade. And
So now you made me think of another question I wanted to ask. Biodegradable materials, the stuff that my wife hates. But what I was told that lasts a really, really, really long time, longer than tiki wood.
the biodegradable materials?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. So sometimes people will say plastic is biodegradable. It is not. It is not biodegradable. There are plastic benches that can be used that are from recycled plastics. But we learned through the park master plan, we heard loud and clear, residents said, bring back the wooden benches. People do not like sitting on the metal benches, particularly winter or summer. They're uncomfortable. People wanted the natural wood. And I really like that. I mean, I think we should be recycling plastic where we can, but I think the number one thing we should be doing is reducing the amount of plastic to start with. So I am a strong proponent with this sustainable renewable resource.
And I appreciate learning that that is from the feedback that we are listening to the citizens. So I appreciate you bringing that to my attention as well. Thank you.
Sure.
So I just want to reiterate one thing that Bev said. This has been a lengthy process because the work that we started almost 2.5, 3 years ago. Of just looking at everything that we had and lots of discussions, and it's really been a pleasure to be a part of this. And I think that I would like to publicly thank Jim, who's here tonight, and Keisha and Ed and Beverly. And I would be happy to entertain a motion at this time.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed Park Memorial Policy and just add a note of my thanks to the review committee that put this together. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Carl,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Great. And next item, please.
Next item is declaration of equipment as surplus and authorization of sale and or disposal.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Ms. Sondag. My name is Don LaChance. I'm the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director. As you've heard a couple times tonight, mentioned that we are in the process of moving out of the old community center. And there are items that we've come across that are no longer in use or have lived their usable life out with our operations. Per the city's purchasing rules, these items must be declared surplus before being thrown out or sold. The ask tonight is that these items before you on the list be declared surplus so that we can either try to get them sold or dispose of them if need be. We're happy to entertain any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions?
How are you going to dispose of the chemicals?
If we cannot sell them,
Mhm.
we're going to probably have to hire somebody to take care of them.
Thank you.
No question.
Mr. Clark?
On these items that you're going to surplus, is there a particular website that you put them on, or
Yeah.
if somebody want to buy them, where do they go to get these things?
Yes, we've been selling the items that were surplus in the previous round on a website called govdeals.com.
Okay. See it right there. I see something I want on them already.
He's not sharing his interest.
They just want to.
Pro Tem, did you have a question? or you wanted to
It's
make
not
a
terribly important, but I'm just curious, are the light bulbs incandescent bulbs? Or-
They are, yes, they are.
I
Some
figured
are.
so. Okay, thank you.
I'd be happy to make a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to declare the above listed equipment surplus and authorize sale and or disposal.
Second.
Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Carl,
Yes.
Mayor Weil.
Yes.
Could I make
Motion passed.
could I make a funny comment? You have on here movable stairs for stage, original to the building. I so remember climbing up and down those steps to go from the cafeteria / gym up to the art room.
Well, not everybody knows that that was your grade school, so. A little, not for long.
Well, at least.
Yeah, you moved the edge of your bed for your dog to go up and down. Okay, with no further ado, thank you, Don, and next item, please.
Next item is hearing from citizens.
Are there any citizens who still wish to speak? Anyone on Zoom land, or we're good? Okay, next item, please.
Next item is review and approval of minutes.
So no changes.
Any comment about the Okay, I'll be happy to entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the council minutes of October 11th, 2022 as presented.
Second.
Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman.
Yes.
Chairman Carl,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Next item, please.
Next item is the city attorney's report.
Madam Mayor, no report, no need for a closed session.
Oh, you're a good guy.
Next item,
Next item is adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
adjourned.